This video is going to run through the basics of completing an annual report through Greater Twin Cities United Way's grants management system, the link. Just a high overview here of the steps that we're going to go through. First, create your report team who are going to be working on your annual report. Make sure everyone has a login for the system itself. Log in then. First, begin a report one time, complete your information, and then once at the end you'll submit the completed report. When you're preparing to log in, first make sure you have a supported browser. We recommend using Internet Explorer as the best option. Firefox also works quite well. Google Chrome and Safari should work, including Safari on your iPad, although there are some quirks to those systems, and you may see some things that work better in Internet Explorer than Chrome or Safari. Before you begin your report, make sure everyone on your team who's going to be working on their report has their own login to access the link. If you already have a username and password, you're registered, and there is an option to reset that password if you forgot it right on the login page. Otherwise, if you need a new password, there's a link here to visit our website under the For Nonprofit section, Funding and Annual Reporting, where you can request a new access to the site. You can also access the same request form under the Current Funding Opportunities page. You're looking for an orange link that says Request a New User Account. And when you click through there, the form that will come up will look like this. Make sure you provide your organization name so that we know what organization and applications and reports to tie this to. Otherwise, complete the form, click Submit, and just note that especially during busier times of the year, it can take us as much as a couple days to complete these requests. So don't leave requesting your account for the system to the very last day. Once your account request has been filled, you'll receive an email back from us like this. It should have a link to the grant site here. Your username will be your email address, and it will have an initial password that you can then change once you've logged into the system. Once you have your username and password, you can access your RFP subsite just via the link main page, grantsproposal.unitedwaytwincities.org. Enter your email address as your username and that password that you received on the login page. When you visit the link main page, it will first ask you, of course, to log in. Again, I plugged in my username, my password. If you've forgotten that password, here's the link to reset automatically the username or password associated with your account. Otherwise, once I've entered those, go ahead and log in. And then once I've logged in, here I am on the main page. For annual reports, what you're looking for, if you scroll down here a bit, is the reporting subsites list. This should list any RFPs that your organization has a report due in. Click through any of those, and this will take you to the main page for that RFP, where you'll find any past reports that you've completed, information here on the grant itself, contacts for that grant as well. If you are the first person from your organization, you should see a blank 2015 annual report library here. In this case, I have a previous test one that I'm going to disregard. But if you're beginning a new report, one time, click Start a New Report, and that will bring up the report template. Once you've brought up the report template, the first two things I recommend doing. First, you need to complete the first two boxes. You need to provide a name for your report, which we recommend as being a format of agency name and program name. And then you need to select the organization for your grant. And then you need to select your organization from the list below. I'm going to choose the first one here just for the sake of demonstration. After you've completed those first two boxes, I recommend you save, just to make sure that everything with your account is set up correctly in the library, that you don't run into any trouble saving the report itself. If you receive the message here that says your report has been saved, things are captured successfully, return to the report, and you can continue to fill out information below. Just a quick run through, there's some general information on your organization and the program here up above. Each RFP is going to have a section of program-specific indicators, a number of narrative questions on the grant. There's a budget and demographics sections here, and I will point out that there's a click-through little guide here on completing those sections. We've highlighted some areas where we to point out some suggestions for organizations to make sure that you get the correct information filled out in those fields that we're looking for. And then on this guide, there are a number of return to report links here that will jump you back to the report itself. After the budget information, again, a section of program demographic data. Again, the guide runs through some guidelines on completing this section. There's a new optional demographics section at the bottom of the demographic section. If you have this information, it's helpful for Greater Twin Cities United Way, but again, it is optional. And then lastly, service delivery locations. Provide the name and address information for each of your service delivery locations. To add additional spaces for more locations, click the Add Another Address link here below, and we can continue to add additional addresses as necessary. If you're an organization that has 20 or 30 locations, feel free to reach out to your program manager and we can discuss other ways that we can get that information from you. As you move through completing your report, make sure to save periodically. This is an online system and web connections go down. We wouldn't want you to lose work due to losing your web connection or your authentication into the system expiring or anything like that. So definitely make sure you save periodically. When all the work on your report is completed and you've done all your internal checks, everyone has made their contributions and you don't need to make any further edits to it, hit the submit button once to finalize your report and get everything locked in. You'll be taken back to the main page of the RFP, and under the annual reporting library you should see that annual report that you just submitted with an application status of submitted. That's so you know that everything is in, locked up, and finalized. Once you've submitted, you will no longer be able to make any changes, so again, make sure that all of your final changes are done. Then just a few tips on completing your annual report. Again, as I mentioned, save as you go along. Some users choose to draft their answers in Microsoft Word or another word processing system and then copy paste into the system. You can definitely do that. Just understand that a lot of the formatting that you may do in Word, bullet points, bold, underline, things like that won't come through. We generally recommend users use the scroll bars on the right-hand side of the page to navigate through applications and reports, as there may be drop-down questions, and if you use the arrow keys to navigate through, you can change your responses to those. Also, you can have multiple staff at your organization working on your report, but know that if you have multiple staff people working at the same time, there is a bit of a danger of overwriting each other's work. I'll run through the details on that in just a second here, but for that reason, we recommend only having one person working in the report at a time. And to help make that possible, as you're saving your work, if you're not actively working in your report, we recommend that you close the report down. So just to detail here how two people could potentially overwrite and lose work while working on a report, just a little timeline here. In this example, Susan opens a new document and makes a save with the name and organization name chosen at 8:07. She continues to work for another 14 minutes. If during that time Carl comes in to begin working on another section of the report, if he opens it 7 minutes later, he's going to be opening the first saved version, which would have just those first two fields completed. He continues to do a bunch of work for another 25 minutes. Susan saves her changes. Let's say she completes the narrative questions at 8:24. Carl continues to do work on the budget and demographics section, saves his work at 8:38. The original version that Carl opened up wouldn't have any of Susan's narrative answers in there, so when he saves, all that's going to be saved is the changes that Carl made. So any narrative work that Susan had done, saved here at 8:24, would be overwritten by Carl's saved version at 8:38. So in this case, it would have worked better if Susan and Carl had coordinated their work. If Susan did her work, saved, then Carl came in and began to do his work in the budget and demographics section. Just a reminder then, once all your fields are completed and you've done your internal reviews, make sure your executive director approves your report, hit the submit one time, and then on the RFP main page, you should see that in submission status. Some resources then, we do have a link here for online reporting instructions. This PowerPoint will be out there, including and also information on each RFP. Also, if you run into questions as you're completing your report, please don't hesitate to contact our help desk at support@gtcuw.org or by phone at 612-389-0000. 340-7534. We're happy to walk through any questions or concerns with you as you go through completing your annual reports.